Hi everyone, this is Dr. Adams, and I am giving you a little bit of feedback on reading activity number 5. This was the activity that I asked you to complete after reading the first of two articles by James Porter, and the first one was Discourse Community, where it was called Composing the Discourse Community, where Porter describes what he defines as a discourse community and also a forum and the process of forum analysis, which is, of course, what you're working on right now. So I just wanted to clarify a few points. For the most part, your responses were very strong, and I think that you got the overall sense of discourse community forums and the reason and process for a forum analysis. But let me just clarify a little bit more. The discourse community is a kind of broader concept than the forum, and I think most of you were able to see that and understood that concept. I thought that Ken did a very good job in his response by saying he was really thinking about these terms in light of the project that he is going to do. So he said a discourse community focuses on a general subject, and for him he was thinking about English studies broadly, while forums of that division focus on specifics, and he gave the example of literary theories and criticisms, novels, and poems. And I think that generally this is a pretty safe assumption to make, that a discourse community could be defined in a range of ways, not just by the sort of topics that they talk about, but I think that when you shift from thinking about a discourse community to an actual forum, the forum being the specific place where a discourse community locates its conversation, then I do think that sometimes that forum can constrict the conversation. And a lot of you gave some good examples of alternate forums other than a journal that kind of appear in real life. So websites or Blackboard being a forum or the dinner table being a forum. So you can think about how there are particular discourse communities in each of those places that you would only sort of talk about the things you talk about in those places with the people in those that also participate in those discourse communities at that forum. So that was a kind of a nice way to think about forum. But the forum is going to be increasingly sort of specific in what you talk about. So if your family is a discourse community, you might talk about different things if you are sitting at the dinner table on a regular basis than you would if you go on family vacation or go to the beach or something like that. So hopefully that is a helpful idea. But what I really wanted to focus your attention on is what Porter instructs us to do as we start to think about how we're participating in a forum. And here I'm looking at page 108 in this first article, Composing the Discourse Community. So Porter's telling us about what kind of text we might produce or someone might produce to participate in a forum. He says a text is acceptable within a forum when it upholds the community episteme. Okay, so when it upholds the beliefs and the ideas and the ways of knowing of that particular discourse community. He later says on the same page, on a more essential level, the manuscript must have an ethos, and we know that ethos means credibility, must have an ethos conforming to the standards of the forum. The discourse must demonstrate that it contributes knowledge to a field. It must demonstrate familiarity with the work of previous researchers. It must conform to the accepted standards for research design, and it must show sufficient data to support its conclusion. The manuscript is a discursive practice within the forum, but it also contributes to an entire discourse community of which the forum is a sign. So I think that this instruction right here is, and these kind of steps of, or list of things that a text must do to participate effectively and usefully in a forum is really useful to you right now as you're thinking, as you're working on your forum analysis and you're thinking in more concrete ways about how your revision might work. So that's why I've been asking you to not only find a forum that will be your target for what you would like to revise your potential publication toward, but also how you have to be reading by using these search terms and doing some research within the larger discourse community related to the topic that you've selected You need to do that so you can start to understand that conversation. And that way you will be able to demonstrate familiarity with the work of previous researchers, along with conforming to the accepted standards and the particular discussion within your forum. So hopefully that makes good sense at this point. If it doesn't, you should let me know. The final thing that I wanted to draw your attention to was Caleb had a really nice insight with the idea of doing a forum analysis and how does that help a writer produce a text. And it was so good that I wanted to share it with everyone. Caleb says that a forum analysis leads a writer to the text, which I think is a nice way of putting this. He says, by analyzing the forum to which a contribution is to be made, the writer finds the gaps that allow him or her to discover a topic that requires delving into rather than selecting one out of midair. It exposes the writer to the norms of the forum's discussions and allows the writer to better prepare the submission for publication. So Caleb here is talking about how the content and the form of a piece of writing, a piece of research writing, can really be shaped by the forum to which you hope it will be submitted. So I want to also clarify that these gaps are gaps in the conversation, gaps in the knowledge that the forum is sharing and participating in making. So, if you're studying your topic and you realize someone as you study the larger discourse community and this forum in particular, you find that someone hasn't addressed something in the way that you're thinking of it, then that is when that discovery happens. You've discovered a gap, or sometimes we call it a lacuna, in the thinking or the research, and that is an opportunity for you to, as Burke would say, put your oar in and participate in that conversation. And I know that this is a little bit of an artificial process this semester because you're not just starting to read fresh from within the discourse community to come up with a topic, as Caleb rightly suggests is kind of the most organic way that this process can happen. You started with your research topic, and you might think about how your professor from that original course helped to sort of frame what you were writing to kind of address maybe a gap in thinking that was already addressed. But nevertheless, you're kind of coming in with something already started, and it's a bit of an artificial process because you're interacting with the discourse community with something already framed. And that's why I think for some of you this revision feels like it's a pretty big revision, and it's going to really shift what the final product looks like. And I think that that's exactly what's supposed to happen, because you're going through this process of finding what the legitimate gaps are in the knowledge and how you can fruitfully and usefully contribute to the forum and write something that will be of interest to the discourse community. Okay, I hope that is a good recap and maybe clarifies some points for you. If you have any questions, please let me know.